Hello, welcome to the What's New video for the 2019 Annual Business Tax Return. This video will highlight important updates and changes to this year's tax filing. There are 3 new tax requirements included in the 2019 Annual Business Tax Return. The Early Care and Education Commercial Rents Tax, also known as the Commercial Rents Tax, the Homelessness Gross Receipts Tax, and the Homelessness Administrative Office Tax if you file the AOT. These new tax requirements were approved by voters in 2018. The commercial rents tax became operative on January 1st, 2019. This tax generally applies to businesses leasing or subleasing of warehouse space and other commercial space in the city. In addition to the existing gross receipts tax, this new tax imposes an additional tax of 1% to 3.5% on the gross receipts from the lease of commercial space in San Francisco. Litigation is pending regarding the validity of the commercial rents tax measure. Until the litigation is resolved, the revenues from the commercial rents tax cannot be expended by the city. The homelessness gross receipts tax became operative on January 1st, 2019. This tax generally applies to businesses with more than $50 million in combined taxable gross receipts and to all businesses that pay the administrative office tax. In addition to the existing gross receipts and payroll expense tax, this measure imposes an additional gross receipts tax of 0.175% to 0.69% on gross receipts over $50 million. Businesses that pay the administrative office tax will pay an additional tax of 1.5% on the payroll expense in San Francisco. Litigation is pending regarding the validity of the homelessness gross receipts tax measure. Until the litigation is resolved, the revenues from the homelessness gross receipts tax cannot be expended by the city. In order to fund homelessness services as outlined by the homelessness gross receipts tax measure as quickly as possible, the city passed an ordinance creating an opportunity for taxpayers to either waive their right to refund of the homelessness gross receipts tax based on the grounds of the pending litigation, or make an irrevocable gift to be used for the same purposes as the homelessness gross receipts tax. To learn more about the waiver and gift options, visit the Homelessness Gross Receipts Tax section of our website at sftreasure.org. The annual business tax return now includes returns for the payroll expense tax, gross receipts tax, homelessness gross receipts tax, administrative office tax, homelessness AOT, and the commercial rents tax. In past years, the annual business tax form required you to file the gross receipts tax and payroll expense tax at the same time. This year, the annual business tax form will display a tax filing menu where you can choose to file all applicable taxes at the same time, or you can choose to file each tax independently during different sessions. You may not be subject to the commercial rents tax or the homelessness gross receipts tax. For more information on who must file and pay these taxes, visit the Business Taxes and Fees section of our website at sftreasure.org. You are responsible for determining which of these taxes you are required to file and pay, and you will incur penalties if you fail to file or pay a required tax by the deadline. There are circumstances where you may be required to file certain tax types together. These circumstances include if you are subject to the administrative office tax, you must file the homelessness AOT, and the form will prompt this. Combined groups will be required to file the payroll expense tax and gross receipts tax. You cannot file the payroll expense tax or the gross receipts tax independently. If you are taking tax credits and/or exclusions, you will be required to go through the tax credits and exclusions pages, then payroll expense tax return, then gross receipts tax return. You cannot file the payroll expense tax or the gross receipts tax independently. For 2019, you are generally required to file if you had more than $1,170,000 in combined taxable San Francisco gross receipts for 2019, or more than $320,000 in taxable San Francisco payroll expense for 2019, or a lesser of residential real estate renting 4 or more units. If you do not meet any of the requirements I just listed for tax year 2019, you generally do not have to file. The payroll expense tax rate for 2019 is 0.38%. This year, the gross receipts tax adjustment factor is now at 100%. This means the gross receipts tax range is between 0.075% to 0.65%. The filing will identify your gross receipts tax based on your business activity. The 2019 business tax return and payment must be submitted on or before March 2nd, 2020. However, to qualify for a 60-day extension to file your 2019 return, you must complete and submit a request for extension as well as pay 100% of your 2019 business tax liability on or before March 2nd, 2020. If you do not make the required request with a 100% payment by March 2nd, 2020, or you do not file your 2019 return by May 1st, 2020, your request for extension will be denied and you will be subject to penalties, interest, and other fees. This year, you will see your payment details displayed differently than in past years. Rather than show you each individual payment you made throughout the year, we are providing a courtesy calculation page for each tax you file. This page will show your principal and the sum of the estimated payments made in prior quarters. If you are filing late, it will also calculate any late filing, late payment, and interest calculations. The calculations displayed will not include recent payments or payments made to other annual business tax types. Businesses with a business activity of construction may be able to reduce their gross receipts amounts with amounts paid to subcontractors. If you are excluding payments made to subcontractors possessing a valid San Francisco business registration certificate, you will be prompted to upload a spreadsheet of line items from the exclusion. The spreadsheet must include each subcontractor's San Francisco business account number, the project location, and the amount paid to the subcontractor. This replaces the need to enter each payment individually into the form. In the beginning of the form, you will be asked if you prefer we refund overpayments or apply excess funds to future obligations. We will review each account after you file and process refunds or apply forward based on your answer to this question. You do not need to take any other action. If you are claiming a substantially similar tax credit, you must file using the paper form. Remember, the 2019 annual business tax return with payment is due on or before March 2nd, 2020. Please review our online instructions at www.sftreasure.org for detailed business tax filing information. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about what's new for the 2019 annual business tax year.